This is going to be the worst season you've ever had. The worst football season you've ever had on First Take. Yes.
Why?
Ooh.
This is why.
This got interesting.
Every time I wheel about a Jim Crow.
This is why. You know what you live for? You live for the Dallas Cowboys to be built up so you can bring them down. Right? You live to be able to come on here and on Monday mornings during the season and say, Dak's been this week, and Dak is great, and look what Jerry's put together. So when it gets to the playoffs, you can have your San Francisco 49er moment.
I went down to the river. I didn't mean to stay.
So when it gets to the playoff, you can have your Jordan Love Green Bay Packer moment. Guess what? You ain't finna get that in the playoffs this year.
But there I saw so many gals, I couldn't get away.
You ain't finna get that built up. You saying that the Dallas Cowboys fans are now sitting at home saying they gonna win the championship? No, they ain't. I know Dallas Cowboys fans. They are trying to be Houston Texans fans right now.
Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about I jump Jim Crow.
There are people who are trying to move down the road so they can cheer for C.J. Stroud instead of cheering for Dak Prescott because they already know. And that stretch of the season that you talked about in the middle, that's when it's all going to come to an head. That's when you're going to have to show up here one morning in your Southern Steve hat with your cigar and talk about the fact that Mike McCarthy just got fired.
Give me back my clothes, please.
And then you're going to be bringing on Adam Schefter to talk about what are possible landing spots for Dak Prescott in the offseason.
And so it was that a young song and dance man, who was later belovedly known as Daddy Rice, was the first to bring blackface characterization to the American stage.
Y'all know what this is right here? It's a goalpost. Yeah, don't try to move that whenever the Cowboys come out and make everyone eat their words towards the end of the season. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Clark is just the latest example of what happens when a popular sports media personality who's revered for his candid, genuine, and impassioned football knowledge and his willingness to go against the grain is presented with an opportunity to expand his platform at the expense of his credibility. Now, for most people, I would expect them to make the easy choice of expanding their platform and thus expanding their pockets at the expense of them following the company script. But for Ryan Clark, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit surprised that you went here with this one. It's very obvious what's actually happening here. Ryan Clark is getting his takes off of Twitter. Now, he didn't pull this idea that Cowboys fans are trying to beat Texans fans out of thin air. A lot of us were joking about it and memeing about it when the Texans were making all of their splashes and making big trades for big players while the Cowboys were essentially doing nothing. But this was well before the draft. This was well before the picture became a lot more clear for Cowboys fans as far as the direction of their franchise. And I think most of the Cowboys fans that were making comments about looking at the Texans with that side eye, like, oh, the Texans look kind of good over there. I think most Cowboys fans that are making those comments, yes, they're able to acknowledge that the Texans are finally getting their stuff together. But, bro, Cowboys fans, real Cowboys fans, they bleed blue, Ryan Clark. Cowboys fans ain't about to flip on the Dallas Cowboys in favor of the armpit Houston Texans. With all due respect, I am a fan of C.J. Stroud. I like what the young man got going on. I like what he stands for. I like his game. But bruh, it's DC4L over here. And all the real Cowboys fans out there, they're not predicting doom and gloom like you're predicting. The real Cowboys fans can look at this schedule and they can see that realistically speaking, even if you want to be pessimistic and you want to essentially give the Cowboys losses to every playoff team on their schedule this season, realistically speaking, it's hard to see the Cowboys not winning 10 games this season. And no, it's not delusional to say that. Honestly, it's more delusional to act like they're a bad enough team to lose 8 to 9 games this season, because then that takes the pressure off of the guys that's here to perform. Oh, I am the biggest Dak Prescott supporter out there. But knowing that I believe that Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback, knowing that I believe CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wide receiver, knowing that we have a top 5 defender in the NFL on this team still, knowing that we have 2 all-pros on our offensive line still, all-pro cornerbacks on both sides, a playmaking corner in the slot in J-Lou, an improved linebacker room, and the only real question mark on our entire defense, and really our entire team, is whether or not our fat boys in the middle are going to hold up. That's really the only question mark we got on this team. Knowing all of that, as a Cowboys fan, you're actually being more delusional by letting them off of the hook and not giving them the expectation of, hey, with this schedule, you're supposed to win 12 to 13 games, because that means if I'm predicting you to win 12 to 13 games, that means I'm predicting you to make some damn noise in the playoffs. And that means if you don't make noise in the playoffs, then I get to hold you accountable. I get to look at you and say, what the hell went wrong? What was the issue with you guys? Because there's honestly no reason that you should think that this team is going to have a bad season or under 500 season with what they are. They have essentially the same roster. We had one of the highest turnover percentages out the entire NFL, something like top 5% of our players are coming back this season from last season. So we didn't lose nearly as many players as you guys are making it seem like. And there's only really a couple of real question marks on this team. Is Tyler Guyton going to be good at left tackle? Are our fat boys in the middle on the defensive side of the ball going to hold up? Everything else, those guys are supposed to get better, and those guys are supposed to come ready to fucking play. Period, bro. I'm not letting none of these dudes off the hook. And I'm sorry, whether you're a Jesse Holley, a Clarence Hill, a Ryan Clark, or anybody else that's predicting that they're going to have a bad season, that they're going to miss the playoffs, that they're going to be 9-8 or worse. If you're making that type of prediction, I'm going to say this. It is fair for you to believe whatever you want to believe, but I don't know how you can look at this schedule. We're about to go through this, and we're going to really break this down. It's fair for you to really believe what you want to believe, but if you are predicting that they're going to have that type of season, then I don't want to see now none of y'all fix y'all mouths to criticize the Cowboys, not one bit, when and if they surpass your expectations. If you're predicting that they're going to be 9-8, that they're not going to sniff 12 wins this season, that they're not going to make the playoffs, then guess what? If they make the playoffs, you have to give them credit. You have to praise them because they outperformed your original expectation. You remember that goalpost I showed you earlier? Yeah. Don't try to move that goalpost when they outperform your underestimation of what this team is, because you're overly emotional overreaction to the Green Bay Packers loss in the playoffs. Let's be real. That's where all of this is coming from. That's the last thing people remember about this team. So now people are really sitting here and trying to make the Cowboys, as they currently are, a worse outfit than the Pittsburgh Steelers, than the Washington Commanders, when they have a whole new roster of players. I don't know if you've ever played football before. Hello, do you know how hard it is to go out and play football, folks you've never ever taken a single snap with, and the whole team is like that across the board essentially? Oh, they're gonna have some growing pains, brothers and sisters, and they have a rookie quarterback. They're trying to make us out to be worse than the Atlanta Falcons. What, because of Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers now? Coming off of a bad Achilles? What, are we supposed to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? We beat them when they had Tom Brady. Not worried about them when they have Baker. What on this schedule is supposed to get us to 8 losses? Cleveland Browns, let's say I give you that loss, 0-1. New Orleans Saints, we're supposed to beat them. They're not a playoff team. I'm giving us wins over any team that wasn't a playoff team last season. New Orleans Saints, we're supposed to beat them 1-1. Baltimore Ravens, even if I say we lose that one, 1-2. New York Giants, we're supposed to beat them. They picked in the top 10 last season, y'all. What are we doing here? 2-2. Pittsburgh Steelers, we're supposed to beat them. Their quarterback is either going to be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. We're supposed to beat them. 3-2. Detroit Lions, let's say we lose that, 3-3. Let's say we lose San Francisco, 3-4. Atlanta, we're supposed to beat them, 4-4. Philly, let's say we win that one. That's the first one. We split the season series with Philly. We do 1-1 with Philly. So now we're going to be sitting at what, 4-4, 5-4, something like that. Houston Texans, let's say I give us that L, 5-5. Washington Commanders win that 6-5. Giants win that 7-5. Bengals, let's say we lose that 7-6. Panthers, we win that 8-6. Buccaneers, we win that 9-6. Philly, we lose that one 9-7. Washington Commanders, we win that one 10-7. How are y'all getting that the Cowboys are going to somehow miss the playoffs or have such a terrible season? Even if I have them lose against every playoff team last season outside of the Buccaneers, even if I have them lose against every playoff team last season, they're still winning 10 games. What are we doing here? So that's why I say, man, y'all can't have it both ways. Cowboys fans, Cowboys critics, media pundits, whatever you are. If you're predicting that the Cowboys are going to have a bad season, then how it's supposed to go? How it's supposed to go is if they outperform that prediction, that original prediction, then everything else is supposed to be icing on the cake. You don't then get to uproot the goalpost and plant it somewhere else and say, no, now you have to do this before you get my respect. No, you shouldn't be criticizing them at all about a lack of winning in the playoffs or any of that. And why is this important? Because the same thing happened last season. People were predicting the Cowboys were going to be mid last season, but they weren't. They were much better than a lot of people predicted them to be. And then what happened? They made it to the playoffs, and then a lot of these guys out here that predicted that they would be bad around the same time of the year last season, they had all the negativity to say about how they performed in the playoffs, even though they originally predicted in the first place they didn't think that this team would be good enough to make the playoffs. That's a lot of the problem with the media. There is no accountability. And I'm talking about whether it's national media, local media, or new media. I don't care. There needs to be accountability. You need to have some awareness of what your take is, where you stand, and where the threshold is to where you have to admit you were wrong. Period. And as far as Ryan Clark, I'm not surprised he's going with the low-hanging fruit. I'm not surprised he's researching his takes from the most readily available thing that he can get to, which is going to be X or Twitter. I'm not surprised that he's having to water down the content that he's putting out because he's trying to overextend himself. He has himself stretched out in too many different directions. I don't care who you are. There's always been a saying, and this saying will always be true. You can be a jack of all trades, but guess what? You will be a master of none of them. Ryan Clark, day by day, is losing my respect more and more because I'm seeing him start to lean more into this entertainment persona more than being the kind of guy that I actually started to like him for, which is someone who's going to talk real football with us and keep all the narratives and stuff at a minimum. But now he's turned into like a TMZ Tammy. It's just kind of played out and old at this point, and I think a lot of us are ready for this generation of media to die out with the Stephen A. Smiths and the Skip Baylesses, to be quite honest. But either way, we still them same old Cowboys. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this discussion down in the comments below, man. And I'll see y'all on the next one.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.